Okay, welcome back.
Chicken soup.
Back. This is it.
Here we go with Matty P.
I love it.
For you guys today on Three Guys Many Games. I'm here with my brother Vincent Sombrato and the legendary three-time national champ Matt Palum, also one of the main officials, obviously head official of PLL, but also for many, many years running the show in the college games as well. And welcome. I'm glad to have you, Matty. It's great to see you. You look great.
I tell you, you guys are two of my. I don't let Pat McCabe hear this, but two of my favorite 516ers. You know.
I was so excited. I told these guys, and we're waiting on the fashionista. We're waiting on Smalley. You know, he's running around. He does his thing. We'll pop in. But I was so excited to have you on because it's such an insight. You know, you're so very involved in both games, the pro game and the college game, and it'll give everyone an insight from the referee perspective of the growth of the game and things of that nature. You know, I wanted to really, you know, there's a lot going on right now. Apparently this week is the week where the rules committees are getting together to make changes, you know, or suggested changes in the game, you know. And so I wanted to start off by maybe asking you your thoughts about some of those things, you know. As a goalie also, I'll start with this one. You know, a lot is always done about the crease. Is the crease area something that's, you know, maybe the hardest call in all of the things for the officials?
Well, wait a minute. I got to stop you for a second.
Okay.
You glossed over a little bit Matty's career. You said he was a three-time national champion, but he also was an All-American. He was a goalie that I don't know too many goalies that ever wore the football leg pads, you know, like Matt did, made it fashionable. I think it was smart because I see a lot of goalies go through unnecessary pain. But the fact that he was played on three national championship teams, and I was looking over, you know, obviously I remember from that era a lot of the players, but, you know, he had such tremendous teammates. And it made me think, you know, what it was like. Forget about the games. That had to be easy compared to practice. I mean, with the guys like the Gates, Marachek, Zilberti, you know, these kind of guys shooting on you during the week, the games must have been a piece of cake for you compared to that.
You know, it's funny you say that because, I always tease people whenever I'm with Gary and we're in public and he's meeting somebody and they say hello to me, and I always say, I'm the reason he's such a good shooter. You know, practice was a bitch. He had to go to all these crazy moves to put the ball in the goal. But no, without question, you want to talk about being ready for game day. I mean, looking at that all week, you know, they were doing all this stuff. You know, they were doing what everybody's doing today. They were doing it 35 years ago, you know, twisters and backhands and behind the backs and all that stuff. So they were, you know, Coach Simmons gave them that creative license to go for it, you know, and they took that, ran with it, and, it was an unbelievable, you know, the older I get, the more I look back and realize how lucky we were and for all of us to be in that.
You ain't old, Palin.
Oh, there he is.
Palin, you ain't old.
He has to make an entrance. Here we go.
My wife said, head down. I got my new rack coming next week.
He's got
another, head down.
By the way, you know, Matty, I call him, he's like, are you not entertained? I call him Maximus Interruptus. So get your words in while you can, because nobody's words are as important as Smalley's, at least in his world, you know.
Let me just say hello to Matty Palin. Listen.
Go ahead, say hello and let him finish
hello. The one thing I got to pick on Vinny about, he's claiming he's Mr. Righteous. We ain't even got we're looking at a screen to replay one of the goals or one of the plays last time, and it's a screen about this big, and they're looking at the replay. The refs, God bless the refs. He just went out. I put him out. I put Matty
He left. Out. You came on, Matty left. He said, forget it.
Right.
All right, there you go.
He's good.
Matty
okay,
P!
I'm back. I don't know what happened, Smalley.
That's what happened to the instant replay screen.
Let me just start off by saying something. Matty, I want to thank you very much for all the years of putting your time in. I mean, it's unbelievable being a referee and the way you're treated in society, and that's why our society is the way it is. Between coaches, disrespecting referees, and players, and I got to pick on Vinny and Steven, they've also had their incidents where they picked on referees.
This guy came on. This is what he comes on.
Excuse me, let me finish.
Oh, my God. Steven,
No.
cut him off. Cut him off. Cut him off. Throw him off. We're never going to get to anything with this guy.
I'm just saying, all due respect, we'll move on with it. Vin, let me just get a word in here.
We were talking about Smalls. We were talking.
All
about
of a sudden, he's woke.
His playing days, Matty's playing days, where he played with the Gates and he won the 3 championships and he was All-American and what tremendous teams they were. What I want to ask about those teams is particularly the 1989 team, which people argue might have been one of the greatest championship games ever. That was a game that came down, oddly enough. Hopkins has their last little rush, and they move the ball behind, and they get a pretty good look, dead straight on in front of the goal, and you shut the door on their hopes of tying that game.
It's funny. I vividly remember that play. There was Patty McCabe and Matt Panetta, right, were matched up. They're high school teammates, known each other their whole lives. So there was a crazy ground ball at midfield, one of the great ground balls of all time. I mean, bodies flying and the whole deal. Hopkins comes up with it. They're down 12 seconds to go. Timeout, settle everything down. Now we come out, and Patty wasn't crazy about guarding Panutz, because Panutz kind of knew his stuff, so to speak, right? He knew all of Patty's little butt digs and all the little things he did. And, so Patty wasn't crazy about guarding him. I believe Stouffer guarded him for a lot of that game, and we paid. Panutz had a huge day. I think he stuck like 5. So now it's crunch time, 12 seconds to go, and McCabe steps up. He goes, yep, I'm going. I'll go with him. So he comes down. As I'm in the goal, he comes down the right side. He's got the ball in his left hand, and Patty's actually playing conservative, doing the right, not trying to take the ball away, just kind of bodying his hips down the alley. Now the ball, I'll never forget, the ball goes behind, and I go, they don't have enough time to get this thing back out front and find somebody. So I'm like, all right. And now when you're in the goal and I'm facing the back, and you kind of read a feed, right? So a looper, it's going up top to somebody. This feed was like, I was like, man, that's going to somebody pretty close. I hope nobody's on the other end of this thing. So, boom, turn. And I think it was Johnny Dressel maybe caught it all by himself there, right on the corner. And, came up with a big one there for sure.
Funny tidbit of that play that Pat told me. You will wonder if it's fact or myth or legend. Apparently, when he went to guard him, he had given Matt a stick, and he goes to guard him, and he says, "You're using my stick."
Yes.
He's using it against him.
I mean, is that lacrosse or is that lacrosse, right? 2 kids from the same neighborhood on the biggest stage that we have, right? Ready to claw each other's eyeballs out, but they love each other, but they're ready to kill each other too. It's great.
Tremendous.
And we got to give a shout out to Rodney Dumpson for the goals he scored in that game. Rodney
Dump had a huge day. Yeah, Dump had a huge day. And I remember Quint talking about one that he ripped past his hip, that Quint said once it went past him, he was hoping then he goes, I heard the cling on the pipe and the crowd go crazy, and I knew he caught that edge. And no, he was great. Johnny Zolberti, God rest his soul, he was great that day. Paul Gate was one. Actually, Gary didn't have a real big day. Petro and him were hammering each other pretty good, and Paul Gate went off that day. He had some fastballs going. He had that thing cooking.
Yeah,
what a fun day.
That famous behind the back pass about 30 yards on a rope,
right?
To the guy for a shot and the goal.
To my best friend, Greg Burns. Yeah, Greg Burns was. That's a funny story too. He said I'm hanging out there and he sees Paulie. Paulie gives him a quick look, and Burns is like, he ain't really gonna do this. Is he? All of a sudden, zoom!
Yeah.
right on his ear. I mean, that it's Petro said. you know, many times that game hooked, you know, a lot of people, and how much fun to be part of that.
You mentioned, you won 3. Princeton won 3 in the 90s, and we've talked about
Yep.
this. Hopkins won 3 in the end of the 70s.
Yep.
Notre Dame is now going for 3. They'll be going for 3 and trying to join you guys as this sort of dynasty elite program. But even your situation there, it's so hard to do. You won that game. You won that game. It was such a tight game when Hopkins 89, 88. The semifinals was Penn had you really was in the lead.
Yep.
It was like you came back to win that one. 90 you kind of rolled over everybody on 90, but it's to get 3. A lot of things have to go right to get 3.
Incredible. Like I said, the older I get, the more I realize how lucky we were and fortunate. And I got a kid going through it now. He's a freshman at Albany and loves every minute of it. I go, you have no idea how lucky you are to have the right fit. I don't care if it's Farmingdale or OCC or Harvard or Notre Dame.
Hopkins guy.
Right? Yeah. Just want the right fit, and that's what we all had. The right coach, the right personnel. I was the right goalie for that team. It was just a lot of fun.
Hey, Matty, I got to inject here. You got any telephone books? You got to move yourself up a little bit. There you go.
There he goes.
A good-looking bastard you are. Holy shit.
Well, last time I tried to screw it. I tried to tilt my phone, and that's when you lost me, so I'm trying not to.
So I have a question for you, Matt. So you had obviously a more than successful career, you would say. It's just magic that you were there at that time and it all worked out for you. And when did you decide that refereeing was something you like doing? And what made you think about that?
This is great. My father is a teacher, he's a retired teacher now, but he was a teacher and he was the football coach at West Genesee High School, the old lacrosse factory up here. And he was the football coach and taught, and he refereed high school basketball in the winter. And I had my grandfather's 73 Dodge Dart up on campus, right? And I'm a middle class. My dad's a teacher, so we don't got any money. And I'm trying to drive this car around, and it had the big old slant 6 engine in there, and you could actually watch the gas gauge move, as you were driving. So hey, it got pretty old, me going, and I'm literally a mile from home, but it got old. My father reminded me of me going home looking for a 20 to fill up with gas. So he actually dragged me to I'm a freshman at Cuse, 1980, fall of 86, going to spring of 87, and he drags me to a basketball referee meeting. Hey, I got a good idea for you. Come on, dude. And basketball about the only sport I never played. I was a hockey guy growing up. Football, hockey, baseball, lacrosse, everything but basketball. So I got into it, and it kind of, and I'd be reffing with him, so I had a great mentor saying, no, you dummy, don't do this, do this, versus some guy that just said, hey, great job. So I got better at it because of him, I was into it, and it fit my personality. It was, zippity bang boom and action and quick and all that kind of fun stuff. So he got me into that, and I started doing like city rec games in 1987, and these are a couple miles from my house, grown men playing hoops, and I'd go back to campus with like $38 cash from my 2 city rec games, and I was king in 1986 and 7, with a pocket full of cash on Marshall Street.
Big bucks.
And I just fell in love with it, and by the time I was graduating, now I'm doing like high school varsity games, and my boys would go have a few beers and get in the stands and, give me a bunch of crap. And so anyways, the basketball officiating was really my first, I did about 4 years of that because I was playing. I didn't get into lacrosse until I got out. And when I got done playing, I only played for probably 2 years of club ball and that kind of stuff. I really had a nose for refereeing, so I was really spending more of my time. I got into the reffing end really as soon as I was done playing, probably 23, 24 years old. And where that's taken me is the single most important thing as far as growing up and becoming a man and integrity and responsibility and all those things that are positive with refereeing, right? It's good chicken soup for the soul, and God, now I got to the point where I referee for a living. I mean, how lucky am I? I spend all year basketball, lacrosse, chasing kids around, again, feeding that soul some chicken soup and you know what I mean, chicken soup?
It's a good story. No, listen, you're doing what you love. You're doing what you love. That's the most
Absolutely.
important thing.
By the way, a little segue. I mean, how do we not tell the chicken soup story to the public? Huh? Ben?
Well, I'll leave it to you to tell the story.
I'm going to break in right now with it. Small, you know this one at all? I like call Vinny chicken soup.
Go. Why you call him chicken soup? Go for it.
All right. 1993. We are at Rutgers trying out for the 94 World Team. Okay, so it's my first go around. I'm happy to have a USA Penny. Chicken Soup here is about to make his 4th World Team. So Vinny Sombrado is royalty. I've never met him before in my life. It's all of this, and he's the guy. So we're in between sessions, and this is before we had turf every 10 feet on campus. So we're playing on some rock hard, dirt fields, and I had some kind of lower body, ankle, foot, whatever. Long story short, I needed a cold whirlpool, and in between sessions. So about go get your lunch and now jump in the whirlpool. Now I'm the biggest wuss in the world for the cold whirlpool, man. Sit on the edge of that thing and I'm dying. So I go into the whirlpool. I'm by myself. It's kind of a rickety old training room, 30 years ago, and I'm in this little tub, and I dunk my foot in there, and I am sitting on the edge of the tub, everything but tears coming out of my eyes, just waiting for that to get numb, and I'm literally rocking back and forth, whining. I look up about 30 feet away from me, walking down the hall is Vinny. He's got the Daily News and the New York Post under his arm, sauntering down the hallway. And now I'm tightening up. I ain't going to cry in front of Vinny Sombrado. Hell no. I'm a tough guy. I'm a tough guy. So I'm sitting there. He gets to the tub. We've never met each other. He kind of gives me the, hey, good. He plunks his leg in there, right, with no reaction. And he starts reading the paper. He's in there about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. He looks up at me. He goes, hey, this ain't chicken soup, huh? I go, Jesus, man, I'm over here dying. I'm so glad you said something. So we've been pretty tight. We've been pretty tight ever since.
That's great.
That is Vinny Chicken Soup Sombrado.
Chicken soup, yeah.
This ain't chicken soup, huh? Mm-mm.
I got a couple of crazy questions when I get a chance in there, but go ahead, Vince.
Let's do it, Smalley. Let's do it.
I'm not trying to pick on you or anybody because I love the zebra, and one of the things I want to talk at the end is restoring the respect for the zebra. I want to come out with a shirt and everything to really get going on this and to call out Long Island coaches as well as other coaches throughout the country when they disrespect the zebra and everything like that because it's uncalled for. But one of the things I want to go right to the heart of you, and last year, and I'm relatively new on the platform here with these guys. I've been around 4 years. I disappeared for about 25 years, but now that I'm back, last year, not you personally took a lot of heat, but the zebra got a lot of heat when someone stepped in the crease from Duke University. I don't understand it. Can you just explain to the viewers what actually happened on that play?
Sure. No, it was probably the single most important play that has gotten us to replay. And it was, it's funny. I talk about my career and all the places and great things and places I've been, people I've met, games I've done. And I think of it as like a folder of work, right? It's kind of like it's my story, right? All these different ups and downs and whatever. And the biggest downer and hurtful moment of my career was that game. So it's an overtime game. It's a heck of a game, Penn State and Duke. And what happened was We had it was Garrett Ledman, who I see in the pro league now, a great kid. But he came around from the side, actually from my side, as a righty, and he had a defender on his back, and he makes a really athletic dive play to miss the goal mouth. And my partner, so you got two chances to referee on that play. When you're on the player side, you're looking for the push, you're looking for where he takes off, where he lands. What is the goalie doing? Where's the ball? I mean, these plays are so hard. You got about 7 things to look at in about a second, to be honest with you. So anyways, he comes around, he dives, and
we went blank.
He went blank. He dove. All right, he'll pick it up.
Matty, come back to life. We need a couple of... Matty, I love you, Matty. I apologize. Matty, you're the best. You're the guy in Creature Feature. Matty. Oh, I love this guy. What a good guy. What a good guy.
He'll get back. He'll get back.
I asked one question.
The
he
mush.
looks like the guy in the torch. The guy that...
It was right at the time, at the dive. Right at the dive.
Oh, he went off.
He got bounced.
Oh, you got bounced.
Right at the question.
Yeah, he'll get back in, but
while we don't have him, let's talk about Smalley. The world has flipped upside down in the world. This world is for Smalley to be on the top of the standings after week 1 with a 3-1 outcome is unbelievable. Vin's right there
in the picks.
The fans are 2-2, and I think it's harder. I got 0-4. I think it's harder to go 0-4 than...
How are you 0-4 is beyond me.
Every game.
The last 5 weeks, after you started bragging, you started going down the tube.
I am on a downslide.
Would this be a mean statement? I'd like to see him go 0-8. Is that mean?
Oh, it's competition. You want to win.
I want to win. Right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you finished last place twice already. You want to get out of the basement.
Thank you, Vinny. I always get counted on a good friend. A friend of mine, man. Counting on a good friend. Yeah, no, that's...
I have a second place and a tied for first. So this time I'm starting to learn who's who on these teams and stuff.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Stephen. We're talking about Matty. I actually really like the kid's personality. And the other thing I wanted to say is this an out of bounds question? Who is the biggest douchebag coach you have ever thrown out?
You come up with some questions, boy.
Oh, rephrase it for me though. I want to ask something like that.
Well,
that's why I'm asking you to rephrase it. How do I ask it? Who is the...
Well, you could say, who is the coach that complains the most about calls?
Okay, that's good. Okay, that's good.
Here he comes. I want to.
There he is. He's back.
He's back.
First, my phone locked up. I was in my car. It said it was too hot, so now I'm in a barn, nice and cool. I should be good. Sorry about that.
It looks nice in there, but I want to say something on. I know you were giving the answer on that call, but
yes.
I just want to add something before you finish on those thoughts.
Sure.
This factors into what we were talking about that crease call and all the things that how you have to look at it. This is what's really amazing about referees, and this is what people really don't understand. You can spend it's one of the few jobs where you get absolutely zero credit for always being right, and then the one time you're wrong, you can get skewered. I mean, it's just the way that is. You look at officials, like I used to say, like, to me. And you were one of the best, to be honest. When we were finishing club and just doing that transition into the Pro League MLL, and you were right there from that inception. You were a guy that everybody had trust in terms of getting it right. So that was one of the things that, even if you didn't get it right all the time.
Well, that's what we're hearing. This blown call here.
Right. But I do think it's a tough job in that sense. That what job do you know that do you always have? I guess like a surgeon, like if you're a surgeon, they expect you to get it 100% right, all the time. So there's very few professions like that put that pressure. And then you're talking about microseconds of 10 things to look at on plays in lacrosse.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to cut you off, Steven. I don't have the attention span. It's the two geniuses. But we were talking when you left off, Palin, when you went into the Scarecrow Act.
Yep.
About
Yeah.
the guy stepping in the crease.
So
bring us
so
back.
the
One
guy,
sentence before. Go ahead.
So again, he came from my side. I'm looking at his back, looking for a push, looking to see where he lands, looking, where's the goalie coming out? We got contact with the goalie as he's diving, and all that part of it was clean. What I didn't have a look at, and lacrosse is tough because the nature of the game, it sort of pushes the refs out to the side. Versus in basketball, when you're on the baseline, you can kind of look up through the guts of a play and get inside. So lacrosse offenses sort of force you out. So the crease can be a tricky part, to get a good look at, and not to make excuses for us, but basically we got pushed out. Circumstances, the kid was on his back. Now the referee on the other side, who might have had a chance to see his toes, you watch the replay, and there's a player that runs right in front of him just as that play is happening. So it totally screens him as Ledman's coming around to make that move. So there were just a lot of unlucky circumstances that led to, the biggest missed call probably in the history of the modern Final Four. And you want to talk about feeling horrible. Jeff Tambroni is an old friend of mine. Huh? No, I was going to say Jeff Tambroni. Jeff Tambroni is an old friend of mine. We grew up playing against each other, both West Genesee, Jamesville, DeWitt, Hobart, and Syracuse. And he's been coaching forever, and I've been reffing forever. And, I saw him in the concourse underneath the stadium about an hour after the game, and I'm streaming tears down my face, apologizing, saying, I know how hard it is to get there. I know how big these games are. And, again, if I can say I took a bullet for the team and now we have replay and nobody else ever has to go through that again, I'm fine with it. And that's part of the growth of the sport. And to be honest with you, probably we didn't have replay for a while because we got a lot of those plays right over the years. They're to your point, Stevie, I can remember kind of nailing a bunch of those plays, and well, that's what you're supposed to do. So, let's move on. You miss one, and you're on the
So
bad
you
end
took
of it.
you took the I didn't know that. You took the responsibility on yourself. Is that I didn't realize that.
It was my crew. And,
oh wow.
And yeah,
Have you gotten over it yet?
Yeah, like I said, it's something that Smuzzy, it's in my folder. It's in my body of work, and I don't hide from it. I talk about it. I want people to learn from it. I think the other thing it brought light on is, officiating, and just like playing and coaching, the expectation of perfection is not a legitimate one. Right. I always say
I agree with that. I agree with that.
My expectation is excellence for me and my crew. That's what I want to give you. I'm not going to try to promise you perfection. It's not happening. Excellence would be a great thing to achieve every time we go out on the field. And we don't always get there either, but that's the goal, is that just like people turn the ball over, just like coaches make decisions they're not crazy about at the end of a game. That's what sports, that's why it's fun. That's why we play. Otherwise,
Matty, talking real, baby. I love it.
Otherwise, we could just feed the numbers. Feed the numbers into a machine, and you don't have to play the games. And you can say, all right, this guy's better than that guy, and this goalie's better. No, people get hot, people get cold, people make plays, people screw up. And again, I'm fine with it. I feel like I took one for the team, and now we have, I think the replay is so good that, again, people kind of get caught up with perfection. Well, we get to ref it once live in 1.2 seconds or whatever. As I said last year during a review, I'm pretty good at watching TV. A lot of guys could go over to the monitor and get it right after. But yeah, doing that live is a hell of a challenge, and I love every minute of it, but it's not always perfect.
Matty, let me tell you one last thing, and I'll let Vinny chime in a second. He's got something to say. The thing I wanted to tell you, as of today, I wiped the slate clean. You don't have to worry about that. You better keep it too long to the nation.
Oh,
It's
I'm
clean,
sure
baby. You're clean.
I'm sure he feels so much better now.
Set
You
me
could
free,
sleep again,
baby.
Matty.
Set
You
me
could
I'm the
sleep
guy that
again.
can do it. I'm close to Jesus. Go ahead, Vinny.
I
So
love it.
I would always say, look, I've been on all sides of. I played in so many games. There's always calls. The reality is, I tell kids that sometimes I coach and stuff. I say, I go watch a college game. Like you see kids play, and what you said, they think they're supposed to be perfect, and like all eyes are on them at every second. And I used to say, just relax and play. I said, because if you go home, look on the computer, look at the box scores this weekend from Division One lacrosse, you'll probably see a combined 30-something turnovers for two teams, right? The
Yeah.
average is probably about 15 turnovers a game, and these are supposed to be the best of the best. So these are the things you have to, fight through. So a referee's call, as frustrating it is, heat of the moment, everybody wants a win. But when you step back from it after, if a call is totally glaring one way, now there's different calls. Like when you're talking about somebody stepping on a line, obviously there was in the playoffs, the NCAA playoffs, the last couple of weeks, there was some really, really tough calls there,
Yep.
And I was watching a press conference with Gary Gate with after Syracuse had lost to Denver, and he was talking about hitting the crossbar or a ball that trickled in. Did it really go over completely?
Right.
And Gary made the point. He said, look, the human element of that is you make the first call and then you try to correct it with instant replay. The thing is, if there's not really conclusive evidence in the replay, it's the initial call.
Right.
So the initial call is there's still going to be human error in an initial call based
Absolutely.
on what. And then when you even go and look on camera, I saw the replay like when McCabe Millen scored that goal.
Right.
I mean, you could watch that thing 1,000 times and you still really can't. Could you really, really tell? I mean, his
Right.
foot is so. But it's amazing that these plays that are so important to the game come down to inches, and that's what makes sports great because you have to be able to, if I was coaching, I'd be telling kids all the time, look, you have to be able to play through this. The problem I had with maybe some refs is not necessarily a call or whatever, is that sometimes refs tend to take something personal and will make calls against players, in terms of unsportsmanlike and things like that. There's got to be a little balance with that too, and I'm not saying like Small said, refs are not there to be abused, but on the other hand, there's guys who want to make arguments on the run on the field,
Yep.
Hey, Vinny, I got to push back on that a little bit on you with that. I understand you got knowledge in the game, but if someone's being I got to say the word.
It depends.
I won't say douchebag, but I'll use do-to-do. I'll use the word do-to-do.
I'm just telling you, there's times I've been in games where some refs, you say one little thing and they want to throw a flag on you, and there's other refs that'll say, listen, maybe I got it right, maybe I got it wrong. Depending on the explanation, it's a lot easier to swallow. There's got to be like a little bit of dialogue on both sides.
I'll ask Matt in this. Here's my question for Matt in relation to that. Because I've said this before. What he's talking about, the interaction between player and this is obviously more on an adult end. Obviously, youth players should not be talking back to the officials in any capacity. That's got to be controlled. But from the pro league or college level, is I used to say it like almost like where they train the police for de-escalation. Is it worth giving the referees a little training because it is heat of the battle, things are happening, guys are getting hit, they're getting angry? Could there be training in a sense that gives them better skills to de-escalate those situations so they don't result in all kinds of crazy.
What, training like a dog, Steven? Put a leash on them? I mean, come on.
Training and confrontation.
Stevie, I think what you're touching on, and when I speak, try to teach refereeing and speak about it and whatever, and the number one thing that I think I have that has helped get me where I am are people skills, period.
Yeah.
Nothing, A lot of guys make the same calls I make, but again, people skills. And I go by one motto I have is let's never be the first asshole. Okay. I can go to asshole land if I need to, but I cannot be the first asshole out there. Okay.
Right.
I can clean that stuff up and I can be a prick when I have to. But no, if you're a ref and you're initiating combative behavior, you're going down the line. It's too hard. This is
Yeah.
such a hard avocation, profession, whatever you want to call it, that it tests the hell out of your people skills. And having been a player, having done some club coaching, right? So I've been on every end of it, and I try to, think about when I was a player, about the refs that I interacted with and had good and especially it's funny when I as early on as playing at Cuse. And now I'm reffing those basketball games in the winter. So, by my junior, senior year, I've been reffing for 3 or 4 years and understand that give and take. And that helped me a lot as a player to kind of, go back and forth with the refs and make statements to them or ask questions that didn't go into asshole land, that were, good questions. And hence, if you have a quality person out there refereeing, when you ask good questions, there's no reason why you shouldn't get a good response. We're in this together. We are there to facilitate a game, to make your game. It's not our game. It's your game as players. And we're there to give you the best level field that we can and to facilitate an environment that's as equal as we can get at both ends. And again, loving being out there. I tell the PLL guys, at training camp every year, guys, there's no place on earth I'd rather be than on the field with you guys this weekend, the best lacrosse players in the world with, 8,000 people watching and a million more on TV. And we are part of a great state-of-the-art product here,
Matty, what do you guys get paid a game? How much you get?
Stop asking. Everything's
we,
about
we
money
can't
with
answer
this
we
guy.
can't answer those
Stop
kind
asking
of,
these
but it's
questions.
similar to like a college fee. So
No, college
it's a good,
basketball gets $1,600 a game now. I'm trying to get you guys some more money. I mean,
you're
are
a
you
little
getting?
low on that. Like Big East basketball, ACC basketball, those guys are making about $4,000 a game.
Wow.
Oh, is it $4,000 a game? Wow.
But look
Yeah,
at what you
but
gotta,
again, that's
look
a
at what
money
you have to
sport.
achieve to get to that level. You gotta go
Exactly. You know how many city rec games you got to do to get to Madison
right,
Square Garden, right?
right.
Everybody wants to go to the Garden, but not too many guys want to do the 8th grade games and the men's league games and all these other things to build that resume.
Let's talk about that for a second, because
Yep.
big news is always official shortages. You're hearing it from every youth leagues and everything else where they can't
Sure.
get anybody to officiate because nobody wants to have to deal with the parents. And
Yep.
nobody wants to deal with regardless of whatever the fee is, they just don't even want to deal with it. I see, in Nassau County where we are, they did a reach out for people, begging people to try to get involved. And I said, I think I have, I want to hear your thoughts of maybe a potential solution to this.
Yep.
I feel like one of the things when I was even coaching youth, 3rd, 4th grade, they make you do the background check, the whole thing.
Right.
I think as part of Oz, you want to be a youth coach, you have to go to the officials training and you have to officiate somebody else's game.
Right.
3 games a year. You put them with maybe a main official and you make that person who's going to be a coach be an official with that official. To one, he learns the game. He should know the rules as a coach. He should know them. 2,
Yep.
it immerses him into what the referees have to deal with also. And then more people doing it, maybe a guy takes a liking to it like you did with basketball and
Right.
get good at it, and you have more of a group, a pool that can maybe elevate through to high school and up further from there.
Well, and I got one more thing for you too, and yeah, I think that is a great idea. The other thing, and I started to do it a little bit this spring, and I went down to Morrisville, okay, Division III school, half hour from my house. Went down there and I spoke to the team, coach asked me to, hey, Matty, come down and I want to get my players to what we just talked about, communicating with refs. How do you communicate with a ref and have a good rapport and all that stuff? And B, what about refereeing? And where I'm going with this is we need to, just like what happened to me. I was 18 years old, doing rec league, picking up the cash. I took my son to Lake Placid last summer to start reffing, and we did the youth games. They handed him a check for $700 after 2.5 days of refereeing. He goes, this isn't bad.
Right.
So, do you want to seal driveways, or do you want to, again, ref the little kids? You're outside with the game you love, that type. But I think we got to hook the college kids. If you get a 32-year-old kid who he's engaged or his wife's pregnant and he got the new job, and hey honey, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna be home at 6:30 because I'm doing a 4 o'clock modified game for $82. What you're doing? Well, we got kids do. We got. So again, you got to get to people. So it's in my fabric. It's in my fabric before I ever had a real job. So I've spent my whole life taking jobs that I knew the job wouldn't interfere with refereeing, right? Versus, oh, I'm at Merrill Lynch making whatever, good money. And now I'm going to sneak out of my office at 3 o'clock and go referee. It's your boss doesn't like it. Your wife doesn't like it. Your kids don't like it. You got to get it in people's blood before they establish all these others, because it's very time consuming. The only way to get good at it is to ref a million games and see situations, right? And I'm a better ref
Just like
every
playing.
year.
Just
Uh,
like playing.
just like playing. And I am a better ref this year than I was last year because of things that happened to me last year. And the same with the year before. And the minute I think I am done learning and done getting better, I'm gonna hang it up, because that's how hard it is. That's how, I mean, things happen that make you go, oh my God, in 30 years I've never seen that. Or, those types of situations. So
Matty, did you ref the final? I noticed. Maybe I'm wrong. Did you ref the Final Four this year?
I refereed when guys get invited to referee the Final Four. That means you are going to do either one of the D1 semis, the D2 final, D3 final, or the D1 final. So 15 guys plus a couple alternates get a phone call or an email that week, and you don't know what game you're doing. Congratulations, you'll be at championship weekend. Then we have a meeting where they assign the games. And this year, and I've done it a bunch of times, I did the Division II national championship game with Adelphi and Lenore Rhine, which was actually the best game of the weekend. It was a hell of a game. Old Gordy there they had their backs against the wall, and they couldn't win a face-off, and they were down all day. And that goalie for Adelphi is a hell of a player. And boy, did he shut the door down the stretch. And what a great game. So, yes, Smalley, I was on the D2 final.
Let me ask you a funny question. Well, you probably, in hindsight, and it's a little crazy question. My boys are going to make fun of me here, but were you were probably kind of happy you didn't want to get the Duke game.
Right. No,
in hindsight.
Smalley, and to be honest with you, there's definitely something to do with overexposure, right? And I got to be careful.
Perfect for you.
But there was no Duke game.
Yeah,
right. There was. There was no Duke game. No, but Smalley, absolutely. That's why the PLL, the model we have is hard with the reps that I get. Right? You see me. You see me.
Right.
How many games? How many guys are in that, Matt? Like I know.
So I only have about a dozen, and we only bring one crew to a weekend. We bring 5 guys to every weekend. One guy's on the shot clock,
doing
and the other
4 games.
4 on the field, and then I'm on the field for all 4 games when I'm there, and then the other 4 guys rotate through the shot clock. So what that does is, because we only have 12 guys, it gives guys some, I don't want to bring a guy in once a month to referee this. I want guys working 4 or 5 weekends, so you know him as a player, you know him as a coach, and also it's not fair for me to bring a guy in once a month and try to referee this shit show, Like, you got to get used to this. You got to see these plays.
how difficult is it to move from, you're just finishing the college games, your college rules, and then you're flipping right into the PLL, a different rule, pro league. Maybe you're letting a little bit more go physically and everything else. How do you flip that switch so easy?
You know what? The only thing I would say back to you is I've been doing it forever. So this spring, I've done everything. I've done JV high school games because we got no guys up here. I've done a JV game on a Thursday, got on a plane and went and did Denver and Michigan that weekend, and then back to PLL training camp. So what I'll say to you is it's just I've been doing it for so long in basketball too. I ref high school basketball, and then I go do a game at Manhattan or Fairfield, or I do some mid-major stuff. So I've been used to going all over the board as far as levels in both sports. So no, am I worried that I'm going to put an eighth grade call in a PLL game or let an eighth grader hammer somebody like we do in the PLL? No, it just kind of you get triggered. Oh, that's a foul, regardless of the level, right? Referee. That's what I talk about refereeing. When do you make calls? You know what? I make calls when I get triggered, just like you guys are watching the TV and you go, "Ah, that looked like a foul." Same idea.
Are you in charge of the PLL?
Yes, Smalley. I am the head ref in the PLL.
What do you think about me becoming a ref soon?
Think about what?
I'd like to become a PLL ref, or maybe Vinny.
Smalley, so you know what? I'd love for you to come to training camp next year and see how easy it is. You wouldn't believe how easy it is.
Oh, you got to open the door for
Big Vinny. Yeah, how about Vinny coming to be a referee?
I'm not interested in it. You ready? Listen to this. Okay.
Matty Palin probably gets the brunt of the talking.
Matty P deals with the brunt of it for sure.
I've never backed down from a talker. I've gone toe-to-toe with some of the best in the business.
Go! Goodbye! That is the right call!
You have to expect the talk and making sure nobody goes off the deep end.
Getting physical. Officials have to step in. Grow up and be a pro!
If you're going to open your mouth, you got to live with those consequences. Usually when they're mixing it up, I go, if somebody punches me, you're dead. Don't punch me.
That's great.
Out there. You'll be all right. In the PLL, we do not half-ass our talking. And neither should you with just toilet paper.
That's good. That's good.
These are
man.
The PLO is great. I mean, you think about the product that's out there and how great. I watch the games, listen, it's hard. These guys, I think, coming out of college, learn what it is to play, a couple times a week. It's not the same as being in college. It just becomes harder. And I love the way you said that, be a pro, because, that's how that's the mindset you have to be. You have to understand, we were doing the grind. I was going from indoor to outdoor. It just becomes part of a fabric of your life. And you do have to handle yourself as a pro, and it's competitive and you have fun. But I love how Matty interacts. I'm trying to remember back. I'm sure we were pretty bad. Were we bad when we were refereeing?
Yes, you were bad.
I was
bad.
Won't
get it to you two clowns. You and Vinny punched somebody one time. I won't get into it. We'll get into that another time. But hey,
I think I'm the only. I was an assistant coach with the Lizards, and I asked to leave the venue. I think I'm the only guy ever thrown out like that.
In the history of lacrosse, have been the only guys asked to leave a venue.
And all I did, now to talk about people skills, all I did was walk up to the refs. They were standing at the midline at halftime of the game, and they had given Doherty, who was our goalie at the time, like a 3-minute unreleasable. We were playing up in Rochester at a high school somewhere.
Right.
And we had control of the game. We were pulling away, and all of a sudden we get hit with this 3-minute penalty, and they come back. They score. It was non-releasable. They score like 3-4 goals in a row, and now it's a 1-goal game. And Dito was the head coach, and Norman and I said, we're assistants. And I said to Dito, we didn't go in the locker room. Like I said, it was a high school. It was so hot, middle of the summer. And Dito says, let's go sit in the corner, talk about a few things, and, get ready for the second half. And I start walking towards the refs, and Dito turns. He goes, where you going? So I said, I just want to ask the guy. He goes, no, please, don't. He was against it. But I said, no, I just want to find something out. So I go to the midline, and they're talking, the refs, they're standing there. And I said, could you explain to me why you gave him a 3? I only said it like that. I said,
Right.
could you explain
Right.
to me why? And the guy like cursed at me and said, just go back with your team and, shut the F up like that to me. And
Right.
I said, not now it doesn't even become a lacrosse game. Now
Right.
I'm like, who do you think you're talking to? I'll knock you out. And the guy, and he says, you're at it. And now he's dropping more flags at midfield. And I'm looking and I can see Dito's like just shaking his head like, what's happening? And he says, you have to leave. You have to leave the stadium.
venue?
Stadium. We're in a high school. There's portable stands. So he says, you have to leave or I'm calling that we're going to get security to remove you,
No.
So I walk away and I go see Dito and I said, yeah, I think we got another 3 minutes. We're going to be I said, and I got to leave. So he says, oh my God. All right, go ahead. So I walk, I don't leave. I go to the sausage and pepper stand. I get a sandwich and I go in the stands. And now I'm sitting and there's two people sitting behind me and they say, aren't you one of the coaches? You're sitting up here eating a sandwich. It was Sean Nadelin's parents.
Oh my
It was
God.
and I laughed and I said, yeah, I just got thrown out, but I didn't leave. I went and got something to eat. We ended up winning the game, thank God. Dito would have killed me if we lost the game. But there was an instance like, look, of course, maybe I'm telling you my side. The guy's not here to defend himself in that.
Right, sure.
But I'm telling you, all I said to him was, why did we get that? And he like totally overreacted. If he would have said to me, look, Vinny, Doc got carried away, because I know how Doc could be too,
Sure.
But
Sure.
it just didn't seem to warrant, because when Doc came off, I said, well, what did you say to him? He said, you should have got that other call right last time too. That's all I said. I said, and he hit it with 3 minutes over that,
Right.
That's what I wanted to hear from the rep. So, those kinds of calls, those are impactful. It changes the game. You don't, as a ref, I would assume you really don't want to be the cause of a win or a loss, right?
Absolutely not. I always say to my crews, call what they make us call. We are not there to look for calls. Call what they make us call. And if you get into marginal, it's very hard to be consistent with marginal things. Okay. If you call the majors, call what everybody sees, call what everybody, don't surprise the whole stadium with something weird that you have to explain. That it's almost, I also use a line that we don't always have to be right. Let's give them what they recognize.
Right.
Face-offs. I'm a big advocate for put the ball in play. There's too many parameters for a perfect face-off by the book. Versus, the pre-whistle stuff, lining up, your head, your hands, are your hands on the ground, or is it your hands on the plastic? They're leaning, they're this, they're that. I mean, okay, that's before we even hit the whistle. Crazy. Now we hit the whistle, they grab its fingers, it's withholding,
I know it really is something that you really do have so many mechanics to go through.
So it's put the ball in play and call what everybody in the stadium sees. My nightmare is when I'm the ref not involved and my partner blows the whistle, then all of a sudden he comes up with one of those holds that nobody knows anything about, right? I got a hold on it. Really? Okay. Now I got to dig one of those up, and and against the other team at some point. We catalog plays, right? If we pass on a 50-50 push, let's pass on the same play down here. If one of our partners maybe called one that's a little borderline, then we're going to grab the same one at the other end, because Vin and all you guys that have coached, all coaches want is the same game at both ends. Give me the same play, even if it's not correct.
Yeah, consistency, just consistency.
Right? And that doesn't mean you go make a shitty call at the other end because you just made one down here. So if I got to push on blue, when we go to the other end, I'll say, guys, do not miss a push on white.
Right.
Don't miss one. Don't make one up, but don't miss one. Okay?
Right.
If we passed on a push, guys, remember the next 50-50 down here, pass on it. If and that's next level. Next level thinking.
Smalley's learning. I hope Smalley's learning.
He wants to be around,
because this is elite. This is elite level game management from an official point of view. You got one of the best in the business here, and you see the thought process that goes into these things.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
I get your point. I get it. But here's my point. We don't have the respect in the game for the Zebras. Nobody respects them like they should. And this is why we have a big problem in society. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. Nobody respects. From basketball, everything I ever watched in the last 5 years.
I always tell you this, Smalls. You love dealing in absolutes.
Yeah.
You go to nobody. It's not nobody.
Well, I'm here to restore. The Zebra.
You take if somebody complains or somebody does that, you make it into that everybody. There's guys who don't. There's players who don't.
That's what I want to get into. Who is the biggest? I'm not going to use the word douchebag coach, but they're out there.
He's not going to use it, but he's used it 4 times.
I'm not going to use the word douchebag because all douchebags
5 times.
But my point is, he probably can't say, but there's got to be coaches that should be fined in the game. They're talking so much shit, and excuse the French, to these referees. Why don't you coach the game instead of yelling at the referee for 42 hours in a game? I mean, it's insane. It's the ref. It's the ref.
On him, Vin.
So
I'm tired of it.
I did read on Inside Lacrosse, like Steven said, this is a rules year. I guess every whatever year they do it, And I see John Tillman is, on top of the list there as one of the guys on the committee. And I saw the 4 or 5 things that they are going to consider. No clamp on the face-off, the instant replay, the crease, all of that. But one of them was, there was the occurrence this year with the Syracuse game when Pat March got thrown out for the second half of the game and suspended for the next one. So they are going to take a look at that and see how they're going to deal with that in the future. So they do address these things, Smalls. It's not like they're ignoring them and like just sweeping them under. They're trying to make all things better, which, so now I gotta ask you this. So, I think Rabel has done with the PLL, I think he's done a tremendous job. I think, they're like anything. You always have naysayers, but I don't listen to that. I look at the positive side of everything. I think he's given these players a platform, put it on the highest level it's ever been. He's trying to always create something to make it better and better. And, you've had many different rules in that league already. You had things change. The face-off started to become too important. They went down to this 32-second. So, sometimes people might look at some of that as being a little gimmicky, and that it gets to be too much. And obviously, it puts a lot more on the referees, in that. But, this weekend, of course, we were excited the first weekend to watch, and I watched all the games. And that first game, you had a big problem with that shot clock. And I know you made the point to say it's not the operator, it's the clock. There was some malfunction apparently with that clock, So my point is, the product is great. For me, I can look through those kinds of glitches, and I'm still going to stick with it. But for the new people watching that game, that would have been hard to swallow. If I was a new guy watching, I'd say, all right, let me check this out. People say this is a good game to watch. And how many stoppages you had to have in that first game was brutal, you know. And look, and again, those things can happen, but they're just going to have to try to do a better job at avoiding or having plan B in that case, because you're going to lose viewership if those games are being, viewed like that.
Yeah, it's got to be professional. It's got to be professional. And ironically, our new shot clocks, which I think it might have been a little combination of the control panel, the heat, there was a power out. There were a few different factors that kind of swirled and made that first half a little choppy, to say the least. And of course, I'm out on the field, crew chief in that game, and things are hard enough, right? Without, trying to go over and explain to Coach Tierney and Coach Bates, why we got to do a do-over because there's, all that kind of stuff. So, hopefully moving. And then from the second half of that game through the weekend, it seemed like we got it ironed out. And the biggest change in the reason they changed shot clocks was from last year so we don't have tenths of a second on that shot clock. So when it went to 0 last year and previous years, it was actually 0.9. So you would see 0 on the clock. And then it was almost a full second later that we're hearing the buzzer. So we're
Right.
reffing the game, looking at a shooter, and we totally are listening. We can't look. You can't possibly look at the shooter and the clock at the same time. So we're listening for the horn, and
Right.
we see a shot and then hear the horn and say, "Oh yeah, beat it by a mile." Well, we go to replay, and there was 0 on the clock with the ball in his stick, and I was like, you got to give us a chance to get this play right. And and again, it was unprofessional looking. Now we have that ironed out. And of course, the first half of the first game, we got to fight through whatever was causing this. And again, the word, it's unprofessional, right? To not have your I's dotted and T's crossed. And we were at training camp all week using the shot clocks. They were great. It was just an episode of bad luck. But
Mm-hmm.
Vinny, regardless, like you said, I'm watching my first game and I say, oh, what the hell's this? What are these guys? They can't even get the shot clock right. That type of thing. So that frustration in that first half for all of us, and I could imagine Paul and Mike Rabel upstairs going, "Oh my God, can we get
Yeah.
this?" You could only imagine, and everybody felt like that, and everybody actually did a good job of saying, you know what, nobody is looking for this nobody wanted it that way, and Coach Tierney, Coach Batesy, the players, everybody was, again, the cool thing about lacrosse is, Smalley, a guy might be an asshole, but he's our asshole, right? He's a lacrosse guy.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
so we're still kind of a family doing this all together. From the Rabel guys to all, they got 82 million kids busting their ass working every weekend, and the players and the coaches and the trainers we are kind of this one kind of traveling circus, that.
Right, but you're right. But just to make it better going forward, should there be a fine involved here? Should we be fining coaches a little bit each game to bring it in a little, to reel it in a little bit? There's got to be a couple of things that we could do to refine it a little bit better, where they don't abuse the referees. It's too much abuse.
The fining stuff is usually pro stuff, and to be honest with you, in the pro league, the tougher customers are the players than the coaches, right? Because a lot of these players are coaches, and they're the ones out there getting whacked or not
See,
whacked or pushed or held, and so most of the people skill stuff is coach, or excuse me, is player related for me. The
Okay, so
coaches,
fighting is legal outdoors, like they have indoors. I see indoors they fight
it's
a
not
little
legal. It's not legal. It can be, if we deem it a fight, two guys punching each other, it's a 5-minute misconduct.
bit. Oh, it is,
the-
but the indoor doesn't get.
No, legal. It's not in the indoor. It's a penalty too. You can fight, but it's
Oh,
gonna be
indoor at the
I mean, you don't
Coliseum.
get, you
That
don't
kind of.
get Smalley. You don't get thrown out of the game. You don't get thrown out of the game. If two guys want to fight, they would both go for 5 minutes. It's not a huge part of the outdoor culture. Like we had that little dust up with Kavanaugh and Rexroad. Kind of a single punch type of thing. So that I wouldn't deem that a fight.
Right.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
like they're taking their helmets off.
No,
and
indoor-
like how
indoor
They're
guys-
setting up a fight in indoor.
Yeah, in indoor, guys are squaring off, and
Right.
the refs are watching as they.
Well,
go
that's
out.
what I mean. Is it the
But it is
same
a
same
penalty.
penalty?
But
No,
but,
it is a penalty.
but like Maddie said, it's the culture. You're not going to get that in the outdoor game. You're not going to see.
Yeah,
something
field lacrosse has never been a two guys square up, drop the gloves,
Right.
take their helmets off, and go. It's just
Yeah.
never been a part of our thing.
fine.
But they in fact, if they remove equipment to fight, we are instructed to cut it off. They're allowed to fight with their helmets and gloves on. And Tim Sudan he goes, "Are we talking about fighting with equipment on?" which was
Right.
a pseudo. Pseudo's like, "Can we go on to the next topic? Why are we talking about fighting with equipment?" So, anyways.
Yeah.
I got a Black Jesus question. Our
Yeah.
great friend Brett Brown. This has to do with rules, and and as a ref, one of the things that bothers him in particular, he hates the aspect of when it's the end of a shot clock in the college game, and it in the pros also, and they either drop it in the corner or throw it to the opposite corner.
Yep.
And obviously it's done strategically to take guys off the field. It makes him crazy. It
Sure.
makes him nuts. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like the fact that the guys stop attacking the goal, and whether or not that should be allowed or what could be done to maybe deter that.
I think it's a hell of a lot better than, we went through that era of lacrosse. Remember when we would all of a sudden randomly put our arms up, make them keep it in, and trying to avoid the stall right prior to the shot clock, and those 6-4 games that we had from the early 2000s, about 10 years of that. Like, I did the 2010 national championship game, 6-5 Duke over Notre Dame. You would think in overtime, what a thriller. Well, it was a snoozer, right? Something's got to give. And I'd rather see them, basically it's 5 seconds and under. They're pulling that little dump. I'd rather see, a dump in the corner at 3 seconds than 2 hours of hold it.
He wasn't saying the shot clock. He was more saying, like, should the team be rewarded for get an automatic clear, or
you can't do that. It's too much. Look, it's part of the game. You run down a shot clock. It's like, you just in basketball, it's different. You could throw a shot up at the basket. In lacrosse, it seems like 99% of when that's happening, the ball's already behind the goal. So the guy would have to throw it into the middle. You don't want to throw a ball there because if it gets checked through and the team gets a break. So, I mean, listen, it's part of the game. It gives an opportunity for the riding and clearing part of the game. And
Maddie, go ahead, Danny. I'm sorry, Ben. What I wanted to talk about the rules in the NFL. There are a good friend of mine is I think I'm saying a rule interpreter where he goes on the sideline and he looks at what they're wearing, their gloves. Everything that they're wearing in the NFL, because there's certain rules, what to wear and not what to wear.
Right.
Are you guys on this? Is it you, or do we have a special committee guy who's on the sideline looking at all of that part of the game, or is it you where you got to take yourself away from the game? Yeah. How does that work?
Sure. No, good question. Thank God it's not us. Refereeing gloves and cleats and, what brand they're using. So no, Smalley, the PLL definitely has, like the NFL, like all the pro leagues, they have their certain sponsor,
right,
allowed to wear brand whatever of cleats or gloves or whatever. So I think for the most part, what happens is they got people that review maybe game films, and then they'll find a guy like, Stevie Sombrado wore Nikes, and everybody's supposed to have New Balance on, and he didn't get permission to wear the Nikes. Stevie's getting fined half a game check.
It's like Glovegate with Tillman. Do you remember Glovegate?
Yes, I do, and I was so glad I was on my couch watching, not
me. And I had
okay. Here we go again. Let's do this. Okay, I've refereed 6,000 games. The glove thing happens on TV. Okay, and I'm looking at it going, I don't even know the rule. Is it 30? Is it a minute? Does he just have to leave the game? So again, think of yourself as a ref. You're a Division I guy. You're in a Big Ten whatever game, playoff game or regular season, 1-goal game. And now someone says, hey, ref, what about those gloves? And you're going, oh, shit. Really?
Can I just say, can I chime in here?
Really? My point is, think of the ref just for a minute here.
Right.
These poor guys.
Right.
If Tills would have said that to me, I would have said, Tills, I'm going to have to get back to you Monday, and when I find out the rule.
Because he did ask.
For now, we're gonna play the game.
He asked what the rule was. That's what he asked. Right. What is the rule on that?
That's a great question.
He was being a little tacky. Some people say tacky, but in the game, and my thought was the guy was actually cheating. I looked at the whole situation. The guy was cheating the system because you couldn't see his hand moving. His hand was moving, and he wore the white glove. Vinny, right? Isn't that what happened?
Well, not so much moving. I think the point was if you have white gloves on your fingers, if that's white and it's not matching the rest of the team, there's a reason a guy has his gloves like that. And I think the face-off guy on Maryland was probably complaining he was grabbing the ball or part of his stick to gain an edge, So everybody's looking for an edge in everything, especially those face-off guys. They're specialists. They're real specialists. So, if a guy can say, well, I could get away with if I got white gloves.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
look, if it's a rule, it's a rule. You got to adhere to a rule. There's nothing. People made a big thing out of that, but I didn't see anything wrong with questioning if there was that rule. Looking at the guy's glove, because obviously, how you have 50 guys on the sideline and there's only one guy with those gloves. There's a reason he's got those gloves.
He didn't. Let me straighten this out. What Tillman did, he didn't ask for a glove check. What he asked the referee is, he just want to know what is the rule on that.
That's the same thing, Smalls. You're asking for a reason.
All right, whatever it is.
Right. And if the guy says, yeah, it's a rule, but we're not calling it, he's asking because the face-off guy on his team felt like he was, the guy was gaining an advantage because he was probably saying the guy was grabbing the ball.
Then the coach went nuts. Who was the other coach that was playing?
Ohio State. It was Myers.
He went bonkers. He's throwing water at the players and the. That was
Matty. Do you think there could be further technology things for the crease in college, like whether it's cameras on the goal? I mean, honestly, the PLL camera system seems much better than many of the college systems. So whatever they're doing, I think they should be copying the PLL of however they're set up. Maybe I don't know if they can afford it.
It's another $5 million.
It's funny. Well, I mean, replay not as easy as it seems, right? And lacrosse replay is in its infancy. There's different systems that work better for football, for basketball, right? So I've been involved with Division I basketball for a while, and they have Exos is a company that does replay, and that's what a lot of those conferences, usually by conference, they come up with a way to, we're going to use this system, right? We use Score Break in the PLL is that system that we're speaking of. Or DV Sport is another one. So there's 3 or 4 different companies that do this replay stuff that usually by conference or by league, they decide, yes, this is what we're going with. So this was our first year in replay. So what you guys got to understand is, right, so it was not mandated that you even had to have it, let alone which system you had to have. So interestingly enough, the Big Ten, okay, so replay kind of was almost kind of gets in late as far as preparation for the year, right? So there were a lot of loose ends as we were entering the season on exactly what this would look like and how it would work. But so, for example, the Big Ten, the high mighty Big Ten, money coming out of their ears, the whole deal, they didn't do replay this year. And the reason they didn't want you to go to Penn State and have one look and then go to Ohio State and have it be different. The Big Ten was saying to themselves, what we're going to do so everybody's field is level, we're going to institute it as a conference when everybody has the same equipment, and so that was the Big Ten stance on it. Patriot League, I went to one place and they had this type of monitor. Went to another place, they didn't have anything. Went to another place, they had a different system. So there, again, it's in its infancy. It's not as easy as snapping your fingers. You got to understand the outdoor elements. Right. You got rain, you got sun, you got all kinds of crap going on. So it's not just snap your fingers and we got replay, no problem. Hold on a minute. We got to, iron this thing out. Because then the problem is, what we were talking about in the playoffs. Jesus, now we got replay and you're still missing it because we're still ironing out the replay, right? Nothing is perfect about it. And again, it's a new sport with replay. And I know we've been doing it on all different sports, but different sports need different looks at different things, right? What's important. Our hot area in lacrosse is, and PLL figured that out with Score Break, is the goal cam, right? They come up with some, we had a couple of those plays, the plays where the goalie catches it as it's going across the line, right? Try judging that with your naked eye at 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
Did it go on
Oh,
his
it's
stick
across
and
the
then
line. His stick is in the net. Wow, I didn't think of that.
It's not a goal, Smalley. If I catch it right before it crosses, and then the momentum takes my stick, and I keep the ball in my stick, and I'm in the goal, that's no goal. And try refereeing that with your naked
I didn't
eye.
know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know a lot of stuff.
Smalls, you're supposed to know all of this because I gave you the rule book.
But you gave it to me. I asked you for 2 years. You gave it to me at the end of the season,
I gave it to you a month ago, and you obviously have not read it.
Matty, I'm the biggest fan for the Zebra. Number one, Uno. I'll find the people. I'll go after them. I'll fight them. I'll do whatever I got to do. I'm in the game.
Let's give our shout outs. Vin, you want to give any shout outs?
Before we go, I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Yes.
One, I want, with all this exposure on TV and all these games you're doing, are you signing a lot of autographs when you're out in the public? Do you have this following out there?
It is a little creepy. Yeah, there's jerseys in the stands. I think I get $4.62 a jersey, maybe a bottle of beer.
Balls, you got to make shirts for him.
Let me tell you what I'm going to do. And Vinny, I've been an advocate for the Zebras for 4 years now. In fact, I had them all in my booth. Vinny, my whole booth was confected of zebras at Hofstra. I had all the zebras up there one day. The whole
You did. You can make a shirt. You put Matt's number on the back, the colors, and on the right, on the front, put a little thing that says, show love to the Zebras.
Right. No, restore the Zebra. Restore the Zebra. Come up with a logo. I'm going to do something, and I'm going to make the coaches wear it.
Smalley, across the back, I want in quotes. You wouldn't believe how easy it is.
The more we respect the Zebra, the better we are in life, and the better we are.
Okay, Amen. Here's another question for Matt, because he hears it from me, but I want Smalls to hear it from someone else, an objective viewer of the game. You're there as a Ray. You're on the field. You see it better than anybody. But you also played at the highest level, and you played with some of the greatest players. The question the conversation we have a lot is how much better the players are today, or if in fact they are better compared to some of the people, where would the Gates fit in? Where would some of these top guys from the past fit in with the current group of players?
You know what? I think, Vinny, our best guys from, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever, our best guys are as good as the best kids today. They're probably trained a little, just like everything else, football and basketball, they're trained better. They're probably a little more consistently across the board, bigger and stronger. The biggest difference that I see, and it was funny, I was talking with John Desko a couple of years ago about this, and he said, now the big difference is players on my teams in the late 80s and into 90, players 20 through 40 are a lot different today than they were back then, right?
Yeah.
Desko made the comment like, the back third or back half of this team, your team, pointing at me, wouldn't have made the team today, right? Now, attackman number 9 or 8 today, he's a hell of a player, right? If you got a Division I jersey, you're a player, because the game's grown so much. The Siennas of the world, the Vermonts of the world, they got dudes.
Right.
They got LIU has dudes. Sacred Heart has dudes. I mean, and back, in the 80s, you could probably, maybe you were a good athlete in high school and you went to one of those schools and you said, I'm going to go out for lacrosse, and you could have success, which you can't do that anymore. So, Vin, I think our Gary Gates, Timeless, yourself, everybody on this call could play today. But again, I don't think our fifth attackman versus what's going on with the fifth attackman today, I think, are two different stories.
Well, I say it this way. I remember going to games and, I'm going back, but when you used to watch warm-ups and guys had sweats on and you didn't see numbers or whatever, and you just from an eyeball standpoint, you watched, you could more or less pick out the 10, 15 best players on the team without seeing the number, and the rest you could see the fall off. I watch guys warm up for games today, and I'm like going, holy cow, who's that? He must be one of their top. And they're like, he don't even get in. And I'm like, holy cow. The depth on these teams is amazing. I think I like the way you put it and how Odesco put it, saying, that second half of the roster, is so much stronger today because I see it at youth level. I'm amazed when I go see kids who were 7th and 8th grade bang the ball around. I said, when I was in college, half the time we couldn't do that. Right. Now, I was lucky enough to play on a lot of great teams where everybody could play. And I was thinking about it, you talk about bigger, stronger, faster. Were they bigger, stronger than Petramala and Steve Mitchell? Nope. Or Mark Greenberg, or, big guys like that, or, faster guys than a Johnny Driscoll, or, or guys who were more versatile than a Brendan Schneck. Like you said, the top guys, I think, would find their level in this sport anytime.
Yeah, take a guy like Brendan O'Neill. He could play. That kid could play on any year, any team. Pick the team. Pick the world team. He play on any team, anytime. You're right. The first 9 guys. I agree with that statement. Whatever. But today, you guys would never beat a team like you wouldn't beat this team that just won it 2 years in a row. Too many players. I'm not saying they're better than the Gates. They would beat a team like Syracuse easily. And the 3rd and 4th.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We mauled people.
I'm not saying they're better. You guys are right. The 9 play. You're not better than them. But if you're going to play 10, 11, 12, and the 3rd and 4th midfield line, this team could play with anybody in the world.
Well, Notre Dame had a lot of depth and had a lot going for them, but I would put that 90 Syracuse team against anybody. I mean, that's one of the best constituted teams ever. I mean, they were deep. They had players.
Maybe for the starting 10, but not after that.
Well, but we're talking about them playing this game. What I'm talking about, those guys, the guys you're worried about, are not getting into the game for Syracuse.
You're saying Gary Gates' team would beat this team that won it 2 years in a row with all the midfielders and the players they had.
I put my money on that 90 team.
I disagree.
Smalley,
I think this.
Smalley, I mean, here's a stat that is still mind-boggling to me today. We were sophomores in '88. And let's talk about some of the first-team All-American midfielders this year and whatever their numbers were. But their numbers seem to be like 40 goals was a truckload right now. Yeah. 40. Okay. If a midi scores, Gary Gate went 70-17 as a sophomore midfielder. 70 in 15 games.
Yeah. I agree with that, but you have more players scoring more points
with no shot clock. Right?
I'm not comparing him. You're going back to the same question.
We are comparing.
Team.
That's the conversation. We're comparing. We just said we're comparing. Isn't that what we were doing?
No, take him out. I don't want to hear those players. Go with the other players.
How do you take him out? He's part of the team. Gary is part of the team. Paul's part of the team.
Yeah, and Paul had like 40. Paul had 47 goals. Yeah, Paul had 47, which would have led the country today, and he was 23.
So you're telling me you got a better goalie back then than this kid today, Entenmann? I don't see it.
I agree. So I'll tell you about goalies. In my opinion, prior to Entenmann, Larry Quinn was always my standard for. I think Larry is at a level that I think there was a lot of really good ones. I put myself in a really good category, but Larry Quinn was up here.
No doubt about it.
Liam Entenmann today, there are more good goals, just like more good midfielders. There's more good everything today. But in my opinion, Entenmann also, watching him play over the last couple of years, there's so many good goalies in Division I. But I think he has also kind of done what Larry did back in the day, just sort of elevated himself a notch above those really good ones. He is special. I agree with you 100%, Smalley.
And Matty, you don't have as many sharpshooters as you do today. You bring in even his nephew Ficaro. These guys are all legitimate sharpshooters, corners, this, that, bounce in the corner. I mean, I just think it's not taken away from the Gates and the Powers. They're the greats, but there's so many added value to the game today.
Listen, obviously, a goalie is only as good as the defense in front of him too. Yeah. Depending on who you have, teams, schemes, where you're allowing guys to shoot from. I had said, and I saw Larry was out at Hofstra at one game this year, and I said to Larry, this kid reminds me a lot of you, how he's built, Entenmann, broad shoulder, thin like Larry was, and the whole bit. The difference between them is, I think Larry was a little bit more stationary in the goal. Larry was a position goalie who cut angles. I didn't see Larry like I can see Entenmann. I watch him close, and he sometimes drops and lifts his hands, guesses low, and throws his hands up in case it's high. Larry didn't do that. Larry was so stationary in the goal, and he was very good at playing angles. And I think that's why I'd say, to me, I agree with you. I mean, I've played with some of the best. I was lucky enough in my career, especially in club, to play with Billy Barroza, who's a Hall of Famer, Sal, who's a Hall of Famer, Larry, who's a Hall of Famer. So I've seen the best of the best, and different styles, different guys, how they sat in the goal. Larry, Schmoller, who I played, I mean, they go, they had a little different tendencies in how they played. Yourself, you had a little bit of a different style too. You played a little sometimes like a hockey goalie. You blocked a lot of balls with your legs, even though you were skinny. But Larry tended to catch the ball more than any goalie I ever saw.
Larry and Entenmann, in my opinion, what they have in common is they make really hard saves look really easy, right? Because they're both really pretty good position guys. And Larry, especially, like you said, with his positioning, he never had to make a huge move to get to the ball. It was always just a boop, got it, out,
But in fairness to the guys who are playing today compared to back in the day, and the Larry, all of those guys you mentioned are great. They also played odds, so they could be like, okay, here's the guy, he's a ripper, but if he throws it over there, the guy's got the pea shooter. I'm not worried about that. Now every guy's got a rocket.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. We're under constant attack.
That's definitely a fair. That's
what I'm bringing out. That's my point. Thank you, guys.
There's definitely guys who. The guys shoot better today. There's no question.
Like Jake Carroll. How are you going to stop a shot like that?
They shoot faster. They shoot harder. There's definitely that. Even to the fact that and I don't know in the PLL, I'm not sure, but in the MLL, when we used to use that grippy ball, the one with the ridges in it, that made you even shoot faster. I don't know what kind of ball are they using in the PLL.
No, I know what you're talking about, and it doesn't have those ridges, but the balls are, the old greaser thing. These balls don't really turn into greasers, so they are grippier than our regular balls were back then. But I think they got away from that ridgy stuff because I think it was doing some damage to people when they were getting hit. And the ball
too shiny, too bouncy. They use a different rubber, different stuff, different ingredients.
Well, Steven, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. We always end with our shout outs. So, being that we have this great official, I guess my shout out is going to go out to old school Eddie Schreiber and Tim Murray. Two longtime officials, two greats. And I used to say, as much as I used to get on them, I can specifically remember Tim Murray after being up at some tournament in Connecticut. And I went up to him at Caniac and I said to him, I apologize for 20 years of maybe yelling at you because you're at a top level compared to what I see out there, and when you do get the great ones, you got to appreciate them because they're not a lot of them. And Matty's right in that crew. So that's my shout outs, Eddie Schreiber and Timmy Murray.
Go ahead, Smalls.
Oh, my shout out today. Who do I go with? Oh my God. I don't know. I lost so many friends in the last year. I lost 5 close friends in the last year. Anyway, my shout out is to the whole game itself. If I could do, I've been around 4 years now, and I like to add value to every coach out there and every player. How do we make it a better game? Can each person make it a better game and just add value to the game and grow it, like that? But I guess my one shout out, I'm going to go to the coach. I got to give it to him. The famous coach from Levittown. Who is he, Vinny? The best coach to ever come out of Levittown. He just got the coaching job with Denver.
Bill Tierney?
I'd like to give Bill Tanny a shout out and his nephew Seth Tanny and two of the greats in the game. They brought it along so far. Two guys from Levittown. Never would have thought it. Two guys from Levittown.
What do you got, Vin?
I'll stay in the referee theme, and one of the refs that really dedicated his life to refereeing like Matty, Al Blau, the famous Al Blau.
Al Blau!
That's a great one.
He's a listener, too.
Al, I can't tell you how many games he refed, and, from an international standpoint, he's one of the original guys, him with the Frenchie Julian. I'm old enough to have played in games where guys like that actually refed, and those guys are, like Steven said, you tend to, years later, looking back at it, to appreciate more how they actually handle their business on the
So
field.
you're saying they're puppets today? You're calling the new regime a bunch of puppets?
How did I say that? Here we go.
I'm kidding.
Now, where do you get that from? This is
I'm
what
kidding.
so this is what he does every week. He attempts to put words in my mouth.
I'm kidding
He
because I
actually
love
says
him.
these things. He wants to give me
Matty,
credit
who's your call
for
out,
saying
Matty?
something
Matty
that he's
Palin.
thinking.
All right, I
This is
got
what
a
he
shout
does.
out.
Hey, let's give Maddie a shout out.
You got two guys, Palin. You got two guys.
I got mine. Mine is an easy one. An old buddy of mine, and he's a referee, and he never got into the college game. He's done 8 million huge 516 area code high school games. I played against him and love him to death to this day. Joe Resin Pollock, been refereeing high level high school lacrosse forever, and he's one of Long Island's grittiest, best ever high school refs, and I love him. Joe Rez.
Yeah,
that's great.
Wow. And who else? Give us one more, Palin.
Ooh, all right, I'm gonna my boy Mike McCluskey. He's another Long Island journeyman grinder. Done a lot of tough games down there. So yeah, when I head to the 516, I always hope I'm lined up with one of them.
I love it. Well, thanks for your time, Matt.
Thanks for coming, Matt.
We appreciate you.
I love you guys. Maybe let's do one later in the season when things are getting kooky. Yeah.
Restore the zebra.
I want to just lastly leave off with the Rabel brothers. Keep doing what you're doing. It's great for the game.
Yep.
Keep pushing the envelope. I love all the things you're doing, and if you ever need us, call on us because we're ready to
maybe Matt, the next show we'll do live from Blackstone's. We'll get a table there in the back there. We'll have some food.
Vinny, give him a big hand, Vinny. Give him a hand, Vinny. Hey, look at that. We saw the zebra. Woo. See you later, boys.
See you, boys, guys. Thanks again.
Take care, man.
Till next week.
Bye-bye.